What the dizzle? You're here with K Bizzle, aka KB, aka Ryan. So, oops, this is going to be the second part. I'm sorry, the third part. And no, I did not think that this would be this long when I wanted to do my story. So, this is the. Oh, a little sweaty. This is the third part to my story. Golly, gee whiz. And I think we left off at me running into my dope man at the gas station with about 100 days clean, and I decided that I could regain control of my drug use and go get some drugs from him. Okay, so I had about $300-400 on me that day, and 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 so I'm about 4 hours into my relapse, and I'm going hard, and my money's gone. And so I run into this restaurant, and I'm only there to go to the bathroom. I gotta pee. So I run in there, and I go pee, and I'm walking out. And my intentions was to go to the car, text somebody's, and try to get some money somehow. You know, come up with the excuse. And so I'm walking by this table, and I see a purse there, and I grab it, and I run out. And I get in the car, I put it in drive, and I start going. And I hear stop or I'll shoot. And I look back, and it's this older gentleman with his gun drawn on the car I'm in. And remember, this is a girl's car from the recovery center that I was dating, rehab romance. So so I look back, and his gun is drawn. He's probably almost 15 yards from me, maybe closer to 10. And and so I said, well, I'm not armed. He's not going to shoot me. I'm leaving the parking lot. Well, he says, stop or I'll shoot again. And he shoots. Uh, and all I felt was my elbow go numb, you know. And I thought the shot had ricocheted off the window and my elbow hit something and it kind of hit my funny bone, right? And then he fired another shot into the door. And by that time, I was on my way out of the parking lot and going to get drugs from the drug dealer because there was a couple dollars in the purse. Uh, you know, I think it was $37 total from that restaurant and or from the purse, and and um, so I was shot and didn't know it. Just underneath, just underneath my shoulder, right here, very close to my heart. I was driving, and and it hit me, and it could have went straight to my heart, but it didn't, and so the insanity of your addiction. I take my shirt off. I had a polo on like this one, but it was black. I take it off and I put it underneath my armpit, and I'm driving like this. And I got the dope man on the phone. I said, "Where you at?" He says, "I went out east." I said, "Oh man." So I drove all the way out east. I even stopped at a gas station and got gas with the shirt under me, with everyone looking crazy at me. And I go to the dope man. And man, those drugs were gone by the time I hit the first stop sign after meeting him. And it was crack. And so now I'm shot, and I'm bleeding everywhere. I can't stop bleeding, and it was a 40 caliber, so it was pretty open. My whole armpit was open. It blew out my whole armpit, and it went right behind and blew out my whole armpit, and so skin was hanging, but I couldn't see it just yet. So I go to the girl's house. She was having a visit with um, her child. She had a CPS case, DCS CPS case because of her addiction, and so she was doing the right thing. She was clean, and she shouldn't have been dating me, probably. Um, and she was having visits with her kid in hopes of gaining custody back. And so I had no choice but to go there. So I pull up, and her visit is just ending, and I kind of wait, and it was a couple minutes, and I go in, and I got my shot arm away from her mom, and I said, "Hey, come back to the bedroom. I got to show you something." And so we go back there, and I make a detour into the bathroom. I said, "I got shot." She goes, "What?" She's all loud, and I'm like, "Shh," you know. I said, "I was out selling merch, and somebody robbed me." I was lying. She goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe this happened." I said, "Look at it. How bad is it?" She's like, "I can't look. There's all kinds of skin hanging." I said, "Well, turn the water on. Let's wash it out." She goes, "My mom last week was behind on the water bill, and she got paid on Friday, but she forgot to pay it. So our water shut off until like later this afternoon or the next day." I'm like, "Oh, great." So I have no water to clean up. So she goes, "You got to go to the hospital." I didn't really want to. So I go to the hospital. And if anybody knows or been shot before, the hospital, if you come in with a bullet wound, they they call the authorities, and it gets investigated. And so they start cutting my shirt off and trying to find where the hole is, and I'm like, "It's right here." And the bullet slug was stuck the whole time in my shirt right here, melted. About like, that. And it was just melted there. And I thought the bullet was still in me. Had I known the bullet was came through me and was melted to my shirt, I may not have went to the hospital. And so I'm at the hospital, and they hand me my bag with my bloody clothes, and they just bandaged me up. They stuffed it. They stuffed the hole, cleaned it out, and then stuffed it. And because it was in my armpit, they couldn't sew it up. It would heal too tight, and they just packed it. So as I'm leaving, my mom showed up. My youngest nephew was there, and this girl, and her car was in the parking lot with a bullet hole in it. And so we're getting ready to leave, and it's kind of in slow motion for me. I look to my left, and coming up the hallway are three men. They're detectives, and they just keep getting closer and closer and closer. And remember, I told everybody I got robbed for my merch and my money while I was out selling merch. But really, I had relapsed. So I'm trying to go to the right through that hallway because it's hallway. And so they get there. I can't rush my family quick enough to get out of there. And they tell me they want to ask me some questions, and they cuff me up. So I go to jail. Now, when they took me out to the car, there was this detective that had a lot of experience. He had been a detective for 20 plus years, and so he was being pretty nice to me and chill, and the rest of them weren't. And so he's like, "Do you want to talk?" I said, "Not to these guys." I said, "I'll talk to you." So I went in there, and I just broke down. I broke down. I said, I've been an addict for a while, and I was fighting it, and I got high about 4 or 5 hours ago, fresh off a relapse. It just happened. And so I told him everything that happened. I was just done, sick and tired of that crap, and I told him where he could recover the purse and where he could get all the woman's credit cards. I mean, it was in the purse, and they retrieved all that, and I told him everything that happened. And he said to me, in all of the years I've been working as a detective, I've never ever had someone be so honest and open about what they did. I said, I'm tired of it, So, this is my way of saying I need help. So I go to jail, and I get appointed a public defender, and it's on the 6 o'clock and the 10 o'clock news that night. And my mom sees it. Everybody sees it. The halfway house owners, they started to put my picture on each one of their halfway houses, where you sign out to leave. Right above that, this is what happens if you want to go relapse. And it was me in my mugshot in my hospital gown. Just looking like a fool. And then on the news, I look like the world's dumbest criminal, of course. And so the guy that shot me, he happened to be a retired IMPD officer, and it was his wife's purse. So out of all the purses I snatched, it was a retired IMPD police officer's wife's purse, and he shot me. And I don't blame him. However, he told them that I was driving at him with the vehicle, which gave him grounds to shoot me, but that's irrelevant. So I got shot. And so, everybody's like, I was already on, I was on probation. I was on probation. And everyone's like, you're going to prison, just try to get the best deal you can. I said, all right. So my public defender, he actually happened to be an alcoholic. And, but he wasn't in recovery. Like, he would come to the tank and I would smell it on him. And, I could tell his face was real red all the time. And so I couldn't really bargain with this guy. There's no wiggle room on a plea bargain. And so I wrote the judge a letter, telling my wrongs, admitting my wrongs, and telling him I wanted to go across the street to the ARC, Salvation Army. And so my public defender brings me a few years plea bargain, do a few years in prison. I said, something's telling me I can't sign this. And he's like, whatever, this is the best you're going to get. He said, well, I'm taking you off the docket today. I was like, and then he stormed off, went through the door. I couldn't say anything. I looked at the sheriff. I said, can he do that? He said, I don't know. And he took me off the docket. So I wasn't having court that day. So here I am, waiting for this whole process to take place. And I got taken off the docket for the court date that day. And I had already turned that letter in. And about 10, 15 minutes go by. A few guys have been called into court to have their court date. And I hear my name called by a woman's voice. And so I come to the door, and then it rolls back, and I step out. And she's like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm a public defender that works in the same office as your public defender. And she said, I intercepted the letter that you wrote to the judge, and the prosecutor gets a copy of it too. But I intercepted it to I read it, I intercepted it. These were her words, intercepted. I intercepted it to the prosecutor, but I gave it to the judge to read, and I read it. And she said, I am going to oversee your case at the office, and I'm going to send a representative from the Salvation Army ARC to do an application for you and see if you're a good candidate. So within 48 hours, there was a representative there. We filled out an application. She interviewed me, and I got accepted to go into the men's program. And so we were just waiting on confirmation from the judge. And it happened. And so I got released on house arrest, and I had to go across the street and get in this about 7 to 10 month program, which was great for me. They work you all day, and you're essentially working for others. You're serving others by working for them. You're keeping that whole building running for people's recoveries. And then in the evening, you have such things like chemical dependency class. You have AA/NA meetings. You have Bible studies. You have all your your treatment in the evening, and they also take you through the 12 steps as each phase progresses. It's just a great program, and it's free. And and uh, so I'm there, and Christmas is rolling around, and I was in the weight room, and I had hurt my back. You know, I've always had this stretched sciatic nerve that gives me problems if I'm not careful. And so yeah, I thought, you know, I got in there with a guy that was real strong, and so I'm trying to lift what he's lifting, and it was just too much for my back at the time. You know, I was lifting it, but it hurt me, and and so I hurt it, and so they banned me from the weight room. I was mad about that, and then they took me out of the warehouse where I was with the guys all the time, right? And we were having fun on the dock, and you know I was becoming a leader out there amongst other guys that were leaders, and so I got moved to the front desk. Looking back on it, it was probably what I needed. You know, it was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. So Christmas rolls around, and the mother of my child, my daughter, I hadn't had my son yet. She's like, your daughter wants to get you a Christmas present. I don't really want to get you anything, but your daughter does. And so, you know, I'm going to do it. What do you want? I said, I want a study Bible. I want a nice study Bible, you know? And so I received a very nice study Bible, probably like the best money could buy at the Christian store, right? And like, I fell in love with the Bible. So I had a lot of time at the front desk to myself. You know, I answered phones. I let guys through the doors. I had to search some bags and stuff. And you know, I was the front desk guy. And so there was spare time in between phone calls. You know, I had the downtime throughout the day. And and so, you know, I started studying my Bible. And the pastors would come in for the Bible studies. There was probably 3 or 4 different ones. And I started to get close with a couple of them. And they started to give me advice on where to start in the Bible. You know, I had read the Bible before, but not really taking it serious. And so, and all at the same time, I'm reading 12-step literature too, you know, and we had this guy that was coming in, and he became my sponsor, and he was awesome, you know. I would say probably my best sponsor, or the one I worked the hardest with, and it was like my life depended on it because it did. And so I started studying the Bible, and one of the pastors coming in, he said, start in Job, you know, because Job's story is a lot like some of ours. He's stripped of everything. People are cursing him. People are ridiculing him, you know, and he loses everything, but he gains it all back at the end. And so, um, so one of the first chapters I turned to is like, or one of the first things I remember like really hitting me. It was in Job, and there was a passage that said, I will send a special messenger, which is an angel, on your behalf to intercede on your behalf for the person that's upright and deliver you from the pits of hell or something like that, you know? And so I'm thinking, I'm like, this woman that interceded on my case, I mean, they're using the same words in the Bible, like intercede and special messenger. And I'm like, that was the woman that wasn't supposed to oversee my case, and she had no business intercepting my case because she was just a public defender. She really didn't have that authority, but she did it anyway. And so my faith in God just shot. I mean, way high with that just experience. It was like poof. It was like, man, God was doing for you what you literally could not do for yourself. He did it. And so I started taking everything serious. I got with that sponsor, and I did everything he said and then some. And I was ready for the next time he came in, and we were going to sit down and go over a chapter or go over some steps. And I was ready. And he was excited about it, and I was excited about my new life and where God was going to take me.